The room was quiet when the words were spoken, not shouted, not meant to insult, not even meant to travel far beyond the walls where they were first heard. A Dutch admiral, trained in Europe's long maritime tradition, looked at the islands scattered across the Pacific and said, almost casually, that Filipinos could not build ships. To him, it sounded like a technical observation. To history, it would become a challenge. For centuries, the Philippines had been seen through foreign eyes as a place of raw materials, manpower, and strategic waters, but rarely as a place of makers. Colonizers came and went. The Spanish ruled for more than 300 years, using Filipino sailors to crew their galleons, but keeping ship design and command in foreign hands. Then came the Americans, bringing modern naval doctrine but still placing Filipinos mostly as operators, not originators. By the time the 20th century was well underway, the narrative was already set. Filipinos were good seafarers, good workers, loyal crewmen, but not builders of great ships. That was the quiet assumption behind the Admiral's statement. What many did not realize was that long before steel hulls and radar systems, Filipinos were already shipbuilders. Long before Europe mapped the oceans, Austronesian ancestors of the Filipino people were crossing open seas using balangays, paras, and caracoas. These were not crude rafts. They were advanced vessels for their time, designed for speed, trade, and even warfare. They used sophisticated joinery techniques without nails, flexible hulls that survived rough waters, and designs perfectly adapted to island life. But history has a way of burying indigenous knowledge when empires arrive. By the modern era, the Philippines was exporting sailors by the millions. Filipino seafarers became the backbone of global shipping. Cruise ships, oil tankers, container vessels. Filipinos were everywhere, keeping the world's trade moving. Yet at home, shipbuilding was often overlooked, underfunded, or dismissed as impossible without foreign expertise. So when that statement was made, it echoed something deeper. It echoed decades of doubt. Doubt imposed from outside, and doubt slowly absorbed inside. Still, something was changing. In shipyards across Subic, Cebu, Batangas, and Mindanao, Filipino engineers were quietly learning. Welders refined their craft. Naval architects studied foreign designs, not to copy blindly, but to understand. Workers who once repaired ships began asking harder questions. Why can't we design our own? Why can't we build from keel to mast? Why must every major vessel come from abroad? The turning point did not arrive with a single dramatic announcement. It came through persistence. In the early 2000s, foreign shipbuilding giants began to notice something important. The Philippines had skilled labor, strategic location, and deep natural harbors. Slowly, shipyards expanded. Large commercial vessels started taking shape on Philippine soil. At first, skeptics said, "These are foreign ships, built by foreign companies." But the hands holding the welding torches were Filipino. The supervisors on the ground were Filipino. The lessons learned stayed in the country. Then came naval ambition. The Philippine Navy, long dependent on second-hand ships from allies, began to dream differently, not of instant superpower status, but of self-reliance. Offshore patrol vessels, landing docks, missile-capable corvettes. Each project became a classroom. Every bolt tightened was a lesson absorbed. Critics remained loud. They said it would take decades. They said mistakes would be costly. They said the Philippines should just buy, not build. But history does not move according to critics. As ships began to roll out, not perfect but functional, capable, and improving with every iteration, something shifted. Foreign observers who once doubted now asked questions. How quickly did they learn? How adaptable were these workers? Why were timelines shortening? The answer was simple and uncomfortable for some. Filipinos were never incapable. They were underestimated. What shocked the world was not that the Philippines suddenly became a shipbuilding giant overnight. It was that once given the opportunity, progress came faster than expected. Designs improved. Quality control tightened. Local supply chains grew. Training programs expanded. Universities aligned their engineering courses with real shipyard needs. More importantly, confidence returned. Young Filipinos studying marine engineering no longer saw themselves as future crewmen only. They began to imagine themselves as designers, builders, innovators. Shipbuilding stopped being something others did. It became something we could do. The story spread quietly at first, then louder. International defense analysts took note. Maritime industries reassessed. The narrative shifted from "can't build ships" to "building ships and learning fast." And that is what truly shocked the world. Not the steel, not the engines, not the radar systems, but the realization that a people long boxed into a supporting role were stepping into authorship of their own maritime future. The Dutch Admiral's words did not age well, not because he was malicious, but because history moved forward without asking permission. Today, when a ship slides into Philippine waters bearing a hull shaped by Filipino hands and minds, it carries more than cargo or weapons. It carries a message. That capability is often hidden, not absent. That confidence, once restored, can change a nation's trajectory. The Philippines remains a country still learning, still improving, still facing challenges. But one thing is now clear to anyone paying attention. Never confuse silence with inability. Never mistake humility for weakness. And never underestimate a nation whose ancestors crossed oceans long before the world learned their names.